Mr. Perry, are you trying to tell me that we just sat through a whole episode and it only actually covered 2 hours of their day? Two. 2 hours of their day. And I'm like, come on through, Cookie. I want to pull my soapbox. That's basically it. Let's talk about drag in all its forms. What, Cookie? Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is my review for Have and Have Nots. This is season 7, episode 6. The 2-hour episode. That's what the name of it should be. The 2-hour episode. We went through this whole thing and literally covered 2 hours of their whole day. So let's talk about what was done in 2 hours, shall we? I don't know even a nicer way to say filler episode, because really nothing really got done. We come in here, we still got Candace and Hannah in the room, and Candace is like, I'm going, and yeah, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to the bank, and this, that thing, and the other. She leaves on out. Her and Mitch go where they're going. Of course, they're not going to the bank. They're really hooking up with Mitch's family. Mitch gets a phone call when they come out the room, and they're like, they got the address. They kind of know where Benny is, and they're in the process of sending their people to get Benny. But again, it's a time crunch. Hannah's still in the room with Jim, and Jim goes back and forth with her and plays this really nasty little diabolical game of having her call him Mr. Jim. Okay. I felt as though someone was just literally just scratching me down the center of my back. And he just continued on with it, and he continued on with it, and it was just, oh, oh, I just couldn't, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. A whole mess. But this was their whole thing for this whole episode. Jeffrey and Madison. Madison gave Jeffrey a ride home. They get to the house. There's people there working. There's servicemen, watching over the house. They go in, sit down on the couch. Madison goes through more of the same that we've seen in the past, telling Jeffrey, your life is just kind of like, this is all a mess. You need to become more independent. You need to walk away. Don't let your parents know where you're going. You know what I mean? Don't let your mother know. And get a job and take care of yourself. And cut yourself away from all of this madness. And he's like, yeah. But of course, it's a touchy situation. You are talking about this boy's mother and father at this point. So they go through all of that. The traffic was supposedly really bad. So he invites Madison to be able to stay over at the house and rest there at the house. So he says, you can go up in my room and nap. So we have this whole scene that they go up to the room. And he's like, well, I can't sleep in my scrubs. And he's like, okay, fine, take them off. And Madison strips down out of the scrubs, and Madison has no underwear on. But Madison is, yes, Madison. Work, Madison. Okay? Madison got work, Madison, bitch. Madison took them little clothes off, baby, and stood there in front of Jeffrey like, you want some of this, honey. Jeffrey sitting there looking at him. I said, I said, come on, you're nasty. You play like it. You're nasty, Jeffrey. You want some. Now, do like the one you love so much. Maybe if it had been Wyatt, honey, Wyatt would already have scabs on his knees, honey. Y'all talking about Miss Wyatt, honey. But anyway, he ended up going to get in the bed. Jeffrey goes out the room, and he's standing there. He's like, he gonna say, ooh. Like, yeah, Jeffrey, we all know what you got going on, honey. We know you want some of Madison, child. So down at the jail, we got Wyatt down there. Catherine waking up. He down there bothering Catherine, still with the bull crap. Marty comes in. Marty pulls Catherine. Wyatt is delusional. He's thinking Marty done came for him. Marty's like, I ain't come for you. I came for your mother. He's like, hey, Marty, get me out of here. He's like, bye, Wyatt, girl. He gets Catherine. They go. He lets Catherine know Jim is alive. Then he lets her know that the Salazar family has actually filed a wrongful death civil suit against Catherine, and that they're working on the stuff that George has to try to get her freed up out of there. But this civil suit is a whole nother issue. And he said, you need to move all your assets into someone who you trust names. All of them. She's like, everything? And she's like, well, hey, and we all know who she was going to pull. You told her Hannah Young. He going to say, your maid? She said, no, my friend, Hannah Young. And you damn right, because that's the only one that won't take $1. She would not take $1 from Catherine. And she didn't even flinch. She said yes and no, she's not Hannah Young, my maid. She's Hannah Young, my friend. You put the stuff in her name. I said, ooh. So through all of the gut wrench that I had gone through with the whole Jim and Hannah, I said, ooh, Jim, you get ready to be hot as fish grease when you find out that Hannah is going to be the purse holder. Oh, Jim. Jim. It's all going to come back on you, honey. So after that all went on, Marty was on his way out. In the midst of him being out, guess who's out in the hallway trying to get in to see Catherine? Broderick. Because, you know, he's nervous. He don't know what's going on. So they told him, you can't get in. The only people who can get in is lawyers. You know, that's it. Lawyers and judges. And Broderick runs into Marty and tells Marty, you know, I'm, you know, the manager at her restaurant, not the restaurant, at her hotel and all this. And he says, can you please just tell her that I was asking about her to see how she was, this, that, and the other. He says, and please call me back. And he says, something about his cell phone, like his something was going on with his cell phone, but he said, let me give you this house number. He gives him the number. Of course, Marty knows the number. It's the number to the loft. So Marty now, his wheels are spinning. He's like, what the hell? Like, mind your business, Marty. Marty's going to end up, I think, probably saying something to Jim with his dumb ass. But yeah, so that's going on. Let's see. Candace and Mitch are down basically at the bar, at the family bar. And they're still, you know, he's telling her, just hold on. Candace is ignoring phone calls from Hannah. The phone keep ringing. And then she answers it, and it was actually Benny. And they're going back. That was the whole thing. They keep going back and forth. Do you think that they're really going to let you go? Benny's like, well, I guess. I don't know. You know, I'm like, oh, Benny. So we got that whole thing. It was just, all of these scenes were just drug out. And I was getting very irritated. And I was trying not to curse Mr. Perry. But I was getting very irritated. Because this is a lot of time that's being wasted on my Tuesday. When there's nothing being done here. It's like a whole waste. There's like 40 minutes wasted of this episode where we could have been doing something or getting something together. Anyway, so nothing was going on, really. Turns around, George comes to see Wyatt. Wyatt's telling George, okay, get me out of here. You know, I got immunity and this, that, and the other. And George came there purely because, you know, George was pissed at that little conversation he just had with Veronica. So he go to take it out on Wyatt, I guess. He goes down there, baby. He tells Wyatt, yeah. Basically, I'm just going to sum it up for y'all. They went back and forth. He told Wyatt, you need to get some help. Stop being so high. And you delusional. Stop being so delusional. And basically told him, I got y'all. I got you all. All of you. I got your mama. I got you. And I'm going to get your daddy. I was like, oh, honey, that damn Wyatt was so mad. I said, see what happens? There's so much truth in that. When you dig a hole for me, dig one for you, and you'll probably rest in yours before I ever get the chance to warm mine. That's just the way it is. It's the way things go. Anyway, David. David goes and pulls up at his house, and he goes and he gets Kyle on the phone. Oh, Senator Kyle gets Kyle on the phone, and Kyle gets to trying to play Jim. Like, first he's acting like he don't know what David's talking about. David's like, I know you and Jim have an arrangement. He's playing. He's like playing. And he's like, I'll just try to see what I can do. David's like, you do that. And old boy is in there, his little right-hand man, the one that Landon got together. And he's like, well, what is Jim trying to do? He's like, it's just too much. It's too much. He's like, he called it a favor about the little girl's murder, but now this is something totally different. And he's basically kind of telling him, like, you might want to go ahead and roll that on, do what it is you could do. But he can't say anything because he don't want to out himself to let him know that he'd been bribed. So he walks on off. I'm like, okay, well, that was useless. Again, another piece of useless information that I guess we'll get to later. So here's where it gets a little interesting. Veronica pulls up and starts showing her ass. I said, okay, here we go. Here we go. Here's some entertainment. She comes in there, baby. And her and David get there. Because David was still in the car. He just get out the car to go in the house. Him and Veronica start going at it. He's telling the people, put her away from my property. They're like, she's not actually on the property. She's parked outside of the little circle. So he goes, well, what good are y'all? He's like, I'm sorry, sir. She get this blowhorn out, and she gets to holler. And he told me, he said, you came after Jeffrey. He was like, listen, I ain't playing no games with you. He said, all that little stuff you do is fine, but when you came after Jeffrey, she gonna say, child, that girl, she don't want to do right. I said, Veronica, horrible. So by this time, they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Jeffrey comes out. Madison's in the window. Baby, when I tell you, she was just reading and calling David all kind of do boys and bitch ass and all this. Then she started calling Jeffrey. She gonna say, hey, honey child, what's going on? How you, Miss Thing? And honey, Jeffrey was looking at her real tight, honey. She gonna say, ooh, I'm scared. I said, girl, you should be, honey. Madison's up in the window. She gonna say, look at you up in the window, honey. Just a waist with all that muscles. You ought to tell him to get you a brassiere, Miss Honey. She gonna say, what you look at you in that window, bitch? Go on, biatch. I said, oh, Veronica. Horrible. Horrible. She was throwing all kind of little gay slurs, and she was just cutting a fool. I said, oh my gosh. David goes in the house, gets this envelope, red envelope, comes back out. She's like, oh, what's this? Oh, you think I don't have stuff on you? He said, yeah, okay, whatever. But I'll take us all down to save my son. I'll take us all down. You understand? He picked up his phone. He called Marty and said, I need to talk to Catherine. Don't let her talk to anybody else until she talks to me. I need to talk to Catherine. I got a plan. He said, then he called George, the DA, and said, George, please come over to my house. He said, what are you going to do? He said, I got some information about some things that can help you out. Baby, hung up that phone, and Veronica was like, oh, you're making a move? Well, I'm going to make a move too. I said, but it shut her down for the moment. She would say, whatever, bitch ass. And went on. He goes back in the house. Jeffrey and them go back in the house. Then we got Jim has this phone call with Lloyd. Now, this is the 2-hour mark. It's been 2 hours. And Lloyd tells him, no, there's no money in the bank, Mr. Cryer. Hannah's standing there. Hannah's like, just hold on, Jim. He's like, that's Mr. Jim. And see, you playing. Your daughter, calling Candace names and shit. Your daughter is playing games. This, that, thing, the other, like you playing games. Then he calls and tells them, shoot him. And you hear this gunshot. And that Hannah's face, I said, oh, jeez. And that's where it cut. But like literally, all that actually happened could have been done in 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Just like I just summed it all up for y'all in 15 minutes, the whole program could have taken place in 15 minutes. Tyler?